Hi, welcome back. This is Josh. Today I wanted to talk about how to quick graph. Okay, now this is something that you should not be doing, okay, unless you actually understand the processes behind it, okay? If you don't understand some of this stuff, go back and watch my other videos, because otherwise it's like giving someone a Ferrari and expecting them to know how to drive it, okay? It's just not going to happen unless you've been trained on the specifics of how to treat a vehicle like that, okay? Same thing with quick graphing, okay? You can go wrong real fast doing this kind of stuff. As you get better, then I would say go for it, because it's going to save you some time, okay? Well, we know the formula for slope of a line or graphs or linear equations is y equals mx plus b, right? And your goal is just to get things into this order so that you can then quickly graph them, okay? So let's go with an easy one where it's already kind of set up, okay? We'll do y equals 2/3 x plus 1. How about that? Okay. We're going to kind of build up on this stuff. All right. This one's pretty self-explanatory. We know that this is the slope. We know that this thing here, plus 1, right? The plus goes with it. We know that this guy here is the y-intercept. Okay. And so we have the two parts that we need, and now we can quickly graph. Now, back in the day, you probably made a table of values and you plugged in values for x, like 1, 2, 3, maybe even some negatives, and you got new values, and then you plotted those on your coordinate plane, okay? And then you went over 1, up this, over 2, up this, right? And it works, right? It definitely works. But now you're kind of needing to use more formula stuff so that you can really prepare yourself for Algebra 1 and beyond, all right? And so the quick graph method is pretty nice because it really does speed things up. Okay, let me put in a couple lines here just so I can graph this guy. I know my lines aren't perfect. That one's pretty straight, actually. Sometimes they're pretty awful in class, but whatever, right? I do the best I can. You do the best you can. I need two key points of information here. I guess, I don't know, parts or points, whatever. I circle them sometimes just to remind myself. If it helps you to also say like y-intercept, great. If you want to say this is m or slope, which you're not really supposed to use that word anymore, I guess. You're supposed to do rate of change. I don't know. That's a lot of wording, okay? Just do it so that you remember what goes where, okay? We start with the y-intercept, plus 1. Let's make a dot. And then we do our slope of the line. And what I mean by that is we use our rise and run, okay? So how many numbers are we rising? 2. And unless these are negative, we're going to assume they're positive. So we go up 2, 1, 2, from the point that we placed, right? So we go up 2 over how many? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we went up 2 over 3. We rose 2, ran 3. And then from there, you can just draw your line, okay? And then you're all set. So it's a quick way of graphing. If you wanted to plug in all these points and check it, which some books ask that you do that, I personally don't feel like it's necessary, but if it's part of the lesson, the goal of that is that the teacher or the book or whatever, they want you to understand that whether you use quick graphing or whether you plug in points, you're going to end up with the same line. You're going to end up using the same points and values to create your linear equation, okay? So let's move on to another one here. Let's see here, I'll just erase all that. I don't need it. Okay. Let's do 3x plus 2y equals 6. Okay, I don't know, I'm just making these up. All right, we need to get it into this format, okay? Now, as you've watched my other videos and learned, this is the barrier, right? The equal sign is always the barrier, and the way you get back and forth across this thing is you add or subtract, right? I knew that's what you were gonna say. You gotta add and subtract, okay? It's kind of like isolating the variable. So let's move this guy over, right? Because I need the y on one side, then I need my equals, then I need everything else over here. So in order to get rid of this guy or move it over, I gotta subtract, right? Because it's a plus 3x minus 3x gives me a 0. What you do to one side, you got to do to the other, okay? So now I have my equation. I have everything in order, but I want it to actually look like where it's y equals mx plus b, okay? So I'm going to rewrite it here. 2y equals, I'm going to rewrite these and swap them, okay? But when you do that, just be careful that you bring the negative sign with the 3x, okay? It's a very common mistake to forget that the negative sign goes with it. And then this is a plus 6. And now we have y equals mx plus b, okay? First, we got to get it in that order. And again, hopefully you're noticing, I try to keep everything nice and straight all together so that we can work through this efficiently. I can't have two y's, I got to get rid of that guy. So the only way I can do it is to divide. If you're not sure how to do this, we have other videos that will work you through that, okay? But I divide this, but what you do to one thing, you got to do to all the others, all right? So this becomes just y. This becomes, I'll leave it like that because it doesn't really matter, 3 over 2x, okay? Whether the x is on the top or the x is next to the fraction, doesn't matter, okay? If the x is on the bottom, then it kind of matters. But for now, don't worry about that kind of stuff, all right? We're dealing with isolating the variables, getting the stuff in the order that we want. So we have y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 6 over 2. Could you reduce it? Yeah, I would, right? We can do that. 6, remember, in order to reduce our fractions, we read them down. 6 plus 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay? All right, now we can graph this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. That doesn't look too great, but that's okay, right? We do the best we can. Let's see here. We got to graph this guy. We need this guy and this guy. And again, circle these if that helps you, okay? I, as a teacher, am always going to circle this stuff. I use lots of colors because I want the students to see like what's going where, how are you getting these numbers and values. And if you have questions on these types of problems, add a comment to my YouTube channel so that I can get back to you, all right? Because these are the basics and really good foundational things that you need to learn. And if you get this stuff down now, you'll thank me. Let's see here. My starting point, right, is this guy right here is plus 3, up 1, 2, 3. So I'll make my dot. That's kind of ugly, but that's okay. And then I got to follow my rise and run. So it's a negative 3, so I go down 1, 2, 3, back down to 0, and then over 2, and my line is kind of like that. Okay, so again, I'm quick graphing. Could I sit here and make a table of values? X is 1, 2, 3, negative 9. Yes, okay, and a lot of times you're going to do this first because they want you to go, oh, now I see the relationship between this and this and this, and I guess all this too. That's what they want you to see, okay? So this is our formula. It's in the proper format, which is what we need. Y equals mx plus or minus, right, plus b, and then we can quickly graph, okay? Now, if there's fractions in there, don't worry about it. If there's, decimals, that might be a little bit more challenging, but for the most part, the goal is not to trip you up with quick graphing. The goal is for you to be able to quickly graph these equations, okay? So I'm gonna put 2 up here. If at this point you wanna pause the video, try them on your own, and then check and see if you got them right, that's probably a good thing to do. Let's do one that's kind of in the format already. Let's do y equals 1/2 x minus 2. And then let's do, how about one that has a whole number? Y equals 3x plus 1. All right? I'm going to work on this guy first, okay? So like I said, if you want, pause the video, because if you work on these and you get them wrong on your own, you're going to learn a lot more than if you just sit back, like I always say, you're sitting back at home in your PJs going, I'm going to learn some math today. You're eating some nachos. You're not really, involved in the learning, okay? This is not edutainment. This is your chance to really get this stuff down so you can fly through your math classes, okay? That's how I like it to be done, at least in my class. We got 2 parts here, right? Parts is parts. We got that guy and that guy. Let me draw my coordinate plane here. 1, 2, 3. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, these are kind of not so great, but that's okay. They're good enough for what we need. Okay, my starting point is -2. Hopefully you've stopped your video and you've already done these. Okay, and now you're just checking your work, which means I can go a little quicker. -2 is my starting point. 1/2 is my rise and run, so I go up 1/2, and oops, there, ain't no thing. And then you just draw your line, okay? And that's how your line should look. At this point in your math life, I would say drawing this as accurate as you can. You know, if you don't know how to use, draw straight lines, get a ruler, use the back of something, something straight that'll make your lines look as pretty as possible, because we want to be able to show where these are going through certain points, okay? This guy, I try to throw in a little bit of a curveball, but not much, okay? If you've watched my other videos, you know how to tackle this, right? Well, you might say, hey dude, there's no rise and run, what do I do? Well, we can convert a whole number into a fraction by just putting it over 1, right? Any whole number over 1 is still that whole number. It's just that if you need a fraction, this is how you create it. And I'd like you to start thinking about that, because as you do more work in math, you're going to start needing these little rules like that so you can kind of change up the problem to keep on working through it. And over time, they're just going to expect that you just know this kind of stuff, and they're not going to reteach it. Let me draw my coordinate plane here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I have my two parts. I got this guy and this guy. My starting point is +1. And my slope, my rate of change is 3/1. So I go up 1, 2, let's make an extra little guy right there, up 3/1. Oh dang, this is gonna be pretty steep. And then it's kind of like that. That was kind of ugly, but there you go, okay? And so that's how your line would look, okay? And so this is hopefully is going to help you get through quick graphs. Check out my other videos, subscribe to my channel, tell me what you think, because I'm really here, honestly, to help. Thanks for watching.